It's the weekend again. It's Saturday afternoon. Just finished up watching the Florida Gators. Just barely won a football game, and time to shoot some videos. So first of all, this one's going to be just stuff I picked up in the past week or so at thrift stores, and Second and Charles, one of my favorite little hunting spots. So first of all, from Second and Charles, from their dollar bin, I picked up some interesting stuff. This one, Paul Horn, inside. I know Paul Horn was like a jazz player, played sax and flute, I think kind of on the West Coast LA area, and then later got into more of like this kind of spiritual, meditative type playing on the flute. This one recorded in the Taj Mahal, taking advantage of the really cool acoustics and ambiance of the location here. I think a lot of people know this album. I've seen this in the dollar bin and kind of been putting it off for a while, and I finally decided to pull the trigger and get it, and haven't really regretted it. It's a really nice nice listen. This one, not a first pressing, kind of an early 70s pressing, I think, on Epic here. Happy to have that in the collection. And then next up, some CTI. I try to pick up CTI if I find it for $1. So except for some of the better releases, like Farrell's Moon Germs, looks pretty good. I'd probably pay more for that. But this one for $1, probably worth about $1. Benson and Farrell, of course, taken off of the Benson and Hedges, I guess, cigarettes. George Benson and Joe Farrell. This one kind of a late CTI, I think mid to late 70s on this one. Yeah, it's kind of smooth, jazzy, soft. Not real crazy by this one, but for $1 I figured I'd pick it up. And some old Verve. Glad I found this one. Ella Fitzgerald sings the Gershwin Songbook, Volume 1. I'd actually seen these at a record show I was at just, I guess just last weekend. Volume 1 and 2, they're like $2 or $3 a piece, and I kind of wished I'd picked them up, but I just didn't have enough money. So I was glad I found this one. Some nice Ella. And speaking of CTI, this one, an early CTI, while it was still part of the A&M label, before Creed Taylor actually started up jumped off A&M and had his own record company, CTI. So The Glory of Love by Herbie Mann. And yeah, you can see on the inside it's got the A&M and the CTI logos. Pretty good stuff. Playing some R&B type stuff here. You got Roy Ayers on vibes, Grady Tate on drums, Ron Carter on bass, Sonny Chirac on guitar. Of course, he played with Herbie Mann for quite a while. Eric Gale on guitar. Some nice stuff. Glad to have that in the collection. Nice shape. And some old Atlantic jazz. Chris Connor, the singer. I Miss You So. Glad to pick this up in really nice shape for $1. I think she was originally on the Bethlehem label, which Creed Taylor was actually, that was I think one of his first labels he was involved with, Bethlehem, before going to Verve, I think, and then Impulse or ABC Paramount. I can't remember the chronology, but he's been on a lot of labels. So on the old Atlantic label here. Happy to have that in the collection. Just some nice soft vocal jazz and some rock stuff. Glad to find these in nice shape. Rainbow, bent out of shape, 80s Rainbow. Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple. Roger Glover from Deep Purple producing, with Joe Lynn Turner on vocals, one of the great kind of hard rock vocalists. This one, of course, has Street of Dreams. That was the big hit off this one. And then this one I've been looking for a while, just a decent copy for cheap. I had this back in the 80s when I was a teen. Emerson, Lake and Powell, self-titled. They're trying to get the band back together, but Carl Palmer was under contract with Geffen Records, I guess, and Asia couldn't get out of that. And so they reformed it with Cozy Powell, hard rock drummer, played with like White Snake and Gary Moore, all the big hard rock guys out of Europe. Album hasn't aged that well. I actually saw these guys when they were on tour in Lakeland, Florida, and my friends weren't really into ELP that much, and I was young. I was like 15. Didn't have a car, so my mom took me. It was my first concert I went to, and we got there like an hour or two early and just drove around the place, and actually tour bus pulled up and Greg Lake gets out and motions us over, and we talked to him for a bit and gave us some autographs. So that was cool. First concert. And that concert at the Lakeland Civic Center, it's actually available on vinyl. I've been meaning to pick up a copy. Actually put in an order for a copy once, but something happened. The order was canceled. And another one from the Dollar Bin. This one's pretty cool. Another rock album. Monkeys, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones Limited. But this one's kind of special. It's still in the shrink, but it's a Venezuelan pressing on RCA Victor. You can kind of see the address of the, I guess, distributor in Caracas, Venezuela. So for $1, I could not pass this up. It's still in the original kind of plastic inner. There's the RCA Victor, Lado A, Lado B, Lado B, I should say. Yeah, for $1, could not pass that up. It's in really nice shape. I haven't really collected any monkey stuff. I used to watch the TV show all the time when I was a kid. Get home from elementary school, middle school, put on the TV, and they'd have like reruns of the Monkees and Gilligan's Island. Used to watch that all the time. So that was Second and Charles, kind of my usual digging spot. And then right down the street there's a Goodwill, which I hit all the time too. They've got a bunch of old records, a lot of crap that's just been sitting there forever. So I'll have to dig through all this junk to find anything decent. But I decided to take advantage. They have like 3 records for $1, so I took advantage of that because I found a couple records I was interested in. This I'd seen for a while and decided to pull the trigger on it, from the Warner Brothers Workshop series. Exploring Uncharted Patterns of Sound is their thing here. But this is Mel Henke, Dynamic Adventures in Sound, arranged and conducted by Mel Henke. So he was kind of like a jazzy arranger guy. He done some commercial music for TV commercials, things like that. So one of the tracks on here is See the USA in Your Chevrolet. That's a track he did. But some really cool jazzy arrangements on here. A lot of humor in his arrangements. Of course, it would be ideal. This is a mono copy. Would be ideal to have this in stereo because there's a lot of those like ping-pongy effects. You can tell that would be a lot better in stereo. But there's one track on here, Old MacDonald Had a Girl. First track on side 2, almost pornographic. There's a young woman doing vocals on here. She's not singing, but she's just doing like a kind of and it almost sounds like there's a guy kind of pursuing her, and she just keep going like no, and he keeps trying. It's kind of the vibe I get from the song, kind of rapey. Almost like that song, Baby It's Cold Outside. She's talking about she wants to go, and he's like, no, you're not leaving. Kind of that same rapey vibe. Weird. Early 60s, like, that was the thing, I guess. Here's the record, the vinyl on that one. Really, really cool jazzy arrangements on these. Really inventive arrangements with some nice humor in them. So I'm glad to pick that up. I've actually got another on that same series. It's like 2 organs, 2 Hammond organs, 1 in each channel, left and right in stereo. Really neat stuff. I love that kind of early stereo, ping pong percussion, all that kind of stuff. Living stereo and RCA. And then another one I picked up for the 3 for $1 is Tommy Dorsey's Greatest Band. It's a 2-album set on 20th Century Fox. It's actually a label I hadn't seen records on the 20th Century Fox label before, so that was kind of cool. And they're ultraphonic high fidelity. But this one's got Buddy DeFranco on clarinet, Gene Krupa on drums, Dodo Marmarosa on piano, and arrangements by Nelson Riddle. So some really strong players, and Nelson Riddle on this. There's the label. Cleaned up really well. This vinyl was just opaque. It was caked with dust and dirt, and but I didn't see any scratches, and it cleaned up really beautifully. It plays really well, so took a chance on it, and really happy I picked it up. I didn't have any Tommy Dorsey. A lot of stuff I see Tommy Dorsey just looks really generic. You know, I've got some Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman, things like that. Some of the other big band Gene Krupa stuff, but didn't have any Tommy Dorsey yet, so decided to pick it up. And then the other one for the 3 for $1 deal is actually not a record; it's a laser disc. Showboat, old black and white movie from the Criterion collection. So I decided to pick that up for $1. I've got actually two Laserdisc players. One's a karaoke player, but they both work. And just trying to pick up some Laserdiscs here and there to build up a collection. So that was Goodwill the other day. Actually went back another day and had a really big score, some cool stuff. I'm going to do that in another video because there's so many records. But then yesterday I stopped by the Hospice, getting my thrift stores confused, Hospice thrift store here in town, and digging through the records and found some Nat King Cole. This one kind of less poppy, more jazzy. Nat King Cole and his trio. The trio, I guess, are these guys on guitar, bass, and drums. And he's got some guest musicians here. This is called After Midnight on Capitol. And the guest musicians are Willie Smith on sax, Harry Edison on trumpet, Stuff Smith on violin, which is really cool. I've been curious to hear his stuff, jazz violin there. And then Juan Tizol on trombone from the Duke Ellington Band. And he actually wrote 2 tunes that you hear all the time, Caravan and Perdido. So I think each of these guys plays on 3 different tracks. Really cool stuff. Really glad I picked this up. While I was digging through the records, I heard a guy kind of shuffle up behind me. I heard him like standing right behind me. It was really kind of irritating. Now when I finished flipping through the records, I pulled this out, but he said, well, there's nothing good in there. And he and his wife or mom or whatever, they leave the store, but yeah, I disagree. I really like that record. I guess he was looking for Pink Floyd or something. So that was the Hospice thrift store, and then the Humane Society thrift store I hit this morning. And they actually had some new records, so I picked up some cool stuff. The music from the motion picture Walk on the Wild Side. Music by Elmer Bernstein. Not the other Bernstein, the one who did, West Side Story? I think. This is the other one, Elmer Bernstein. He did more like jazzy type stuff. The Man with the Golden Arm, things like that. But this is on Ava Records. I've never heard of that one. But nice stereo pressing. I can't find any information on credits, who plays on this. It looks like most of the tracks are full orchestra, it says, but there's some that says jazz combo. So I'm kind of curious like who would be in the jazz combo, but can't find any info online who actually played in it. There's the label. But read a lot of good stuff about this record, so I decided to pick it up. And of course this one, went past this up, Frank Sinatra. Sinatra's Swingin' Session on Capitol. I think this is like a second pressing here, but a nice stereo pressing in pretty decent shape. Still has the original inner sleeve. Capitol full dimensional stereo. I always like these cool inner sleeves that give you the rundown on their stereo dealio or their current releases, things like that. Nice label on this one. And these were $1 each, so I wouldn't pass up any Sinatra for $1. And then another guy from the Rat Pack, Sammy Davis Jr. Try a Little Tenderness. And I don't really collect Sammy Davis Jr. I don't know why, but what caught my eye on this one is He's accompanied by Mundell Lowe, really good jazz guitar player, also an arranger. But this one is just Sammy Davis Jr. singing and Mundell Lowe on guitar, as far as I can tell. So I'm pretty excited about that. This is a Decca stereo pressing, and again, it's got the original inner sleeve listing their current releases, things like that. It's got that nice, I like that. That Decca label's pretty cool with the colors. So happy to have that. And let's see, the final record from the Humane Society. This one's kind of funny, kind of cheesy. Joe Piscopo and Eddie Murphy, of course, from Saturday Night Live. It's the Honeymooners rap. Yeah, produced by Hal Willner, who I think was associated with Saturday Night Live at the time. Yeah, there are a couple things that kind of, I mean, first of all, it's in the shrink still, so that's cool. It's really good shape, but scratching and digital sampling by DST, or Grand Mixer DST. He did the scratching on Herbie Hancock's Rocket. That's what he's famous for. And then the other thing that caught my, I actually heard about this record. I kind of forgotten about it, but when I saw the credits, I remembered what the deal was. It's got John Zorn on Game Calls, kind of a New York City avant-garde jazz guy. If you're familiar with that kind of music, you know him. You really have to strain to hear the game calls. I talk about like bird game calls, like hunters use, wah, wah, that kind of stuff. You really have to strain to hear it. It's not real obvious, but really bizarre that he's on here. You know, just a kind of novelty hip-hop thing from the, this is from '85. And is my cat gonna pick up a hairball? I don't know. And then a CD. Occasionally you have some decent CDs. This one's really cool, another jazz thing. Annie Ross, sings a song with Mulligan. So of course you got Jerry Mulligan on baritone sax. Annie Ross was a vocalist. Art Farmer on trumpet. Chet Baker on trumpet. Henry Grimes on bass. And Dave Bailey on drums. So it's this original album, plus there's like a Spanish reissue on the Phoenix label, I think, or maybe Jazz Track. These Spanish companies, they've got different copyright laws over there, like Fresh Sound Records, and they put out a lot of cool compilations on CD, but they can put out stuff, I guess, without paying royalties if it's of like 50 years old or something. And so this is like the original album plus like a 10-inch on here and some other alternate tracks, bonus tracks, things like that. So really cool for $1. And then finally, they have a little showcase, little glass case there in the store, and they put some interesting like books and collectibles type stuff in there. And I saw these and decided to look at them, and paid 50 cents a piece for these. They look almost like little magazines. What they are, I guess, if you join the RCA Victor Popular Album Club, you get these in the mail, and they kind of give you like a preview. It's kind of like the Columbia House Record Club, but they give you a preview of what's coming up off the label and what your automatic selection is going to be that's going to come in the mail, or you can choose an alternative. So kind of, these are all from 1961. I bought 8 of them for 50 cents a piece. So they talk about kind of, you know, what the new records are, they're out on the label, and what's coming. Really kind of neat, you know. Three Sons, they were big on RCA Victor. You got Norman Luboff. The Melocrinos Strings and Orchestra. More music for relaxing. More Join Bing and Sing Along. Bing Crosby. Kind of neat stuff. They have like spreads that kind of show you, like this one's got all the Chet Atkins records. So if you're a Chet Atkins fan, you can see what's available on the label and pick out what you want. Let's see what else. Really nice period piece. Looks like they put out a Fats Waller compilation of some of the stuff from, I guess, the 1930s. So they have a little piece about that. I pick up a lot of like RCA Victor stuff from this era, late 50s, early 60s. So this is kind of neat. Here's something about boogie woogie jazz revisited. And now this is really cool. It's like a spread of all their kind of percussion exotica related albums. You might recognize some of these. So really cool for 50 cents a piece. I couldn't pass those up. They tie in with a lot of like the RCA Victor living stereotype records I pick up. So thanks for watching. Those are my recent thrift store and of course Second and Charles pickups, my value pickups. I've got another video coming up. It's going to be what I've picked up at Goodwill. Big haul of 7-inch singles. Just a really surprising turn of events one day. Picked up like 30 7-inch singles or more actually. So that's going to be the next video coming up. Thank you for watching, everybody, and see you on the next video.